Nicole. I apologize that my camera isn't working. I've used this computer before, so I'm not quite sure what's wrong. I'm going to go ahead and just do a screen share so that at least you're not looking at nothing. But again, welcome. And again, I apologize that my camera is not working. So today for our first Google Hangout, I wanted to cover 3 main topics. So I'd like to talk about behavior change, a little bit about public health nutrition, and then about evaluating online health resources. So for the first topic, I'd like to discuss behavior change. And so I took a behavior change class in college, and it really shaped the way that I approach behavior change. I think I've mentioned before, but I work for WIC, which is a supplemental program for women, infants, and children. And in this program, we offer food packages with healthy foods, so whole grains, eggs, beans, fruits and vegetables, things like that. And then we also do quarterly nutrition education. So we speak to each one of our clients at least 4 times a year. And going through this class was very instrumental in how I approach behavior change with myself, but also in how I counsel these clients that we have. So it's important to look at behavior change as a series of ongoing self-experiments. It's a nonlinear journey. You're going to have frequent reflection and self-evaluation. It's really all about learning about yourself, and then trying to figure out, with that information that you've gathered, how you can create an effective strategy to meet your goals. So for step 1 in this process, you'd want to choose a behavior that you'd like to change. So for me, I chose the habit of, or I created a habit of always getting a muffin or a pastry or something like that whenever I would get a coffee when I was at school. So it got to the point where it started to feel kind of weird to not have it, and I was doing it almost every day. And so the behavior that I wanted to change was to stop getting this muffin every single day. So step 2 is self-observation. This is paying close attention to all the factors around the behavior that you want to change. And so what's really helpful for that would be creating a list of things that you think might be important and trying to pay particular attention to these. It's very helpful if you write all of these things down, but even just thinking about it on a regular basis brings your attention and your awareness to these issues, which can really help. So the things that I chose to look at, so for sleep, you may look at things like how much caffeine are you drinking and at what time? What do you do before you go to bed? What is your room like? Is it quiet? Do you have a lot of ambient light? Things like that. So then you want to pay attention to those factors for at least a week. Again, writing down really helps, and just trying to figure out what is important for you around those behaviors. What is something that you could change that would really make a difference? So then for mine, I paid attention to my morning routine. So when I woke up, how much time I left to get ready, my emotional state, so how stressed out I was, and then really paying attention to how eating the muffin made me feel. So after spending this week of paying very close attention, I found that all of those things mattered, and that they were also really interrelated, which should not be a big surprise. And what I found was that the issue was really about being stressed. I was going to bed too late, so I was trying to do something fun, to relax after school. It's a lot of work. And then I was waking up late with no time to make coffee at home. So then when I would eat the muffin, it was a little bit of comfort. And I know we've all talked about emotional eating in week 2, and so I think a lot of you guys can relate to that. So step 3 is to develop a strategy. So what I concluded was that my real problem was stress. So I wanted, so I changed my goal or my purpose from trying to focus on not eating this muffin to a broader underlying cause of dealing with stress. And so I created a SMART goal about meditation, because I figured meditation might help to relieve the stress. So I made a SMART goal. So one that was specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So what I said was, starting tomorrow, I will meditate for 5 minutes every day before going to bed. All right, so with this goal in mind, we move on to step 4, which is testing it. So trying out your strategy. And so what I found in my case was that that was not a great goal, and I would just forget and not do it, and it wasn't really effective to set that as my goal. So step 5 is to reevaluate. And so I realized that I needed to be more specific and that I needed some help. Just saying that I was going to do it was not enough. And so I changed my goal to, I will set a meditation app reminder to remind me to meditate at 8 p.m. every day, so that I will meditate for 5 minutes. So throughout this process, you can see that it addresses different stages of change and a realization of where I was really at, because sometimes, you're not totally self-aware and you don't really know. So what I was trying to do was to jump into action from contemplation phase, and I failed. And so I had to take a step back and choose a strategy that was more appropriate for someone in planning stage. So again, just this, I'm going to set this reminder kind of a deal. And so then that takes us to step 7, which is to retest. So I tried it out and I set the app and tried to see if it was effective. And it did work for about 2 weeks. And as part of this class, we were evaluating all of this, paying close attention like we did in step 2 for a 2-month period. So while it worked for those first 2 weeks, when I did a check-in the next week, I realized that I wasn't doing it anymore, that I'd only meditated maybe twice that week. And so after looking at my written evaluations and of things that I was doing, I saw that with midterms coming up and tons of projects, I started just ignoring the app, just snoozing it and moving on to whatever else I had to do. So instead, I switched my strategy to getting weekly acupuncture, because I figured if I made an appointment, then I'd be more likely to go. So my new goal was, starting next week, I will schedule an acupuncture appointment once a week until the end of the semester. So then we go back to retesting and reevaluating. And what I found was that was an effective strategy. And so I was going to acupuncture. It was helping with my stress levels, and everything was great through the end of the semester. And then at the end of the semester, I had to make a new plan. And so you can see that this is a process. It's continuous, it's iterative. You're going to be constantly making changes, constantly evaluating and reevaluating what's happening. So it's not linear. There's many ups and downs, and you have to be open to making changes all the time. And it really depends a lot on your priorities. And so after the semester was over and I was no longer stressed, then I moved on to another topic. And so this is what behavior change is like. It's really hard to motivate. It's really hard to stick with your goals if you don't pay close attention and are constantly on it, until these things just become habit and a part of your lifestyle and a part of your life. So looking at behavior change like this is evaluating things on a personal level. And again, I also use a lot of this, or some of this, in counseling, but I only see clients about every 3 months, which is a little long for goal setting and holding people accountable. But still, always have people pick a goal, always follow up with them on that goal, and make sure that that people are working towards it. They have a good strategy. It's not an overly vague strategy. It's something that they can work on. And part of this is just asking them a ton of questions and really trying to guide them through this process and getting them to understand themselves and what motivates themselves to try to find something that works. And this is a good segue, since the program that I work with is a public health program that also offers healthy foods. So it is all about changing food access, or access to healthy foods. So someone on the discussion board commented that the class did tend to focus on a lot of individual responsibility for behavior change. And we have tried to introduce some public health principles, like with the ecological model. So looking at not only individual factors in behavior change, but also social and environmental factors. And this is really important to all of us, because pretty much everyone that is involved with this class It has a public health background and is really interested in food access and other public health type issues. And so for Dr. Ori Vachaspati, if you type her name into Google Scholar, and you'll see tons of articles about healthy changes in schools in particular. So changes brought about by the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, impact of salad bars, doing neighborhood food assessments to see what kinds of foods are available in those neighborhoods, and trying to correlate that with things like obesity. I've worked for Dr. Ori Vachaspati as a research assistant on a couple of these projects. I've also worked on nutrition-related policy systems and environmental projects. So evaluating things like offering food stamps or accepting food stamps or WIC at farmers markets. And then along with that, having programs that are called double up bucks, or that's an example of one of these programs. So if you use your food stamps and sometimes WIC at a farmer's market, then they'll double the amount of dollars that you're spending. So you have twice as many dollars to spend on fresh fruits and vegetables. And so all of these projects are mostly focused towards getting people to eat more fruits and vegetables. That is the main food category that people are not getting enough of. Most people do not meet their recommendations for fruits and vegetables in a day. And so most of these public health programs are just all about trying to nudge people into buying more of them. So we have the food stamps, WIC, double up bucks. We've also looked at things like produce prescriptions. So that's where people will actually, when they go to the doctor will write on a piece of paper a prescription for, $5 worth of fruits and vegetables. And again, they can take this usually to the farmer's market and redeem that. So then they have access to these healthy fruits and vegetables. We've also looked at projects around healthy food retail. And so what this usually involves is having healthier fruit and vegetable options at corner stores, gas stations, other such small stores that typically only offer less healthy options, or at least they offer more of that than these healthy options. So there's a concept called food deserts, and that's where there are communities where people don't have access to healthy fruits and vegetables, where they may have to take a bus for a half an hour, or otherwise try to get fruits and vegetables outside of their immediate neighborhood, which makes it less likely that they're going to purchase those items, and then of course less likely to eat those things. And so part of healthy food retail is trying to use the stores that are in that neighborhood and having them offer these healthier options so that people at least have a little bit more of a choice in what they're going to eat. The other project that we looked at was trying to have healthy policies in childcare centers. So this includes the kinds of foods that are offered at clinics or at childcare centers. Eating family style, things like that really promote healthy eating habits among young children, as well as policies around being breastfeeding friendly. Some people are a little bit uncomfortable with handling other people's breast milk, but it is the most healthy kind of food that you can offer to your baby. And if a mom wants to breastfeed her baby, and if she wants to pump and provide that, there are policies in place at certain childcare centers that make that an easy process for her. Farm to school projects, bringing in farm-raised produce into schools, because local produce is more nutritious, although you can make arguments for that since it's more fresh and doesn't travel as far. But having that connection to farmers, creating a buzz about it, kids tend to get, and adults too, tend to get more excited about eating those items. And so it's almost like you're making them cool. And that's a lot of the importance of farm to school projects. But not just farm to school projects. There are other things that can be done in schools to try to promote fruits and vegetables. Changing up the layout of the line at school, so the food line. So that the salad bar, for example, is a part of the normal flow of the line and not set outside of the line. Just a lot of these random little things that you wouldn't think are really significant, but it's just enough of a nudge to encourage kids to buy these. I also recently heard on the radio they have they were putting in carrot vending machines in certain schools, and they had this purple wrapper, and it was like a carrot action figure kind of a thing on the cover. And it was cute. They were interviewing these kids, and they were like, these carrots are cool. They're not like the carrots that your mom would give you. And it's just interesting. You know, there's a lot of different approaches that you can use to try to get kids to eat healthier foods, you know, without necessarily just educating them or encouraging them, you know, not focusing only on the individual level, but changing their food environment. So again, all of these projects are aimed at helping to increase access and make healthy choices an easier choice. You know, right now, if you think about some of these places that you can buy food, like at the gas station or wherever, a lot of these are less healthy options. And what these programs are trying to do is to change that balance and to try to really support people to make healthier lifestyle choices. Okay, so now we'll move on to topic 3, so evaluating health resources. So in the Google Hangout post on the discussion board, I've gotten a lot of questions, and many of them focus on questions about a specific diet. So I actually feel like that's really great that you guys are asking me questions so that, you know, I can go to these resources and try to give you evidence-based responses. But you guys can also do this for yourselves. And, you know, I only have so much time to answer all of your questions. And if you want to delve a little deeper in by yourselves, you know, there are a lot of places that you can go to get really good evidence about whether what you're interested in is a healthy practice or not. And so I posted a link from the National Institutes of Health on evaluating online health resources within that discussion board post. So I would really encourage you guys to take a look at that, or just Google National Institutes of Health and evaluating online resources. This particular article focuses mostly on complementary or alternative medicine, but the things that they encourage are true for any health claim or diet or whatever. And it has a lot of really good links at the end of the article for places that you can go for more information. So on it, there were a few things that they said to look for when you're looking at online resources. So the first one is to see whether this website is trying to sell something. So if you're getting your information on a supplement and, you know, they're making it sound really great, but the website is for the company that sells that supplement, you know, that may make you question that information a little bit and maybe try to find out if the information that they're citing on that website, if you can find that in a different, more reputable source. Also looking to see if it includes outdated information. So, you know, maybe they're citing articles from more than 5 years ago, something like that. Or perhaps the information that they're providing is from magazines or someone's individual blog and not from a credible, evidence-based scientific study kind of site. The next one is if it makes excessive claims for what a product or, you know, I like to think, or a diet can do. So if you're looking at a diet and it says that you can lose 10 pounds a week, you know, based on following this diet, or if you're looking at a website and it says, take this supplement and you'll lose 10 pounds in a week. Well, what's generally considered a healthy rate of weight loss is 1 pound per week if you're under or normal weight to overweight, and then up to 2 pounds a week if you're obese. So looking at that, that seems like a really high rate of weight loss within a short period of time. So that may make me just sort of question how valid this diet supplement and this resource really are, since that's such an extreme weight loss. And then also thinking, is that really possible? what is the likelihood that you could stick with a diet or with taking a supplement that makes you lose weight that fast? So the sustainability of it, because what research has shown is that weight cycling, so losing weight and then gaining weight back and losing weight and gaining weight back, is actually harder on the body than just being overweight. Especially since usually when people lose weight and they gain the weight back, they end up gaining a little bit more weight than they had originally lost. So this whole process of weight cycling is really hard on the body. So are you able to stick with this diet? Because if you're not, and it's a short-term thing and you're going to lose a ton of weight right away, that may not be the best approach to sustainable weight loss and to really improve your health if that's your goal. And then also, could there be any health implications with whatever it is that you're taking? I don't know if you guys remember fen-phen from back in the 90s or early 2000s. And it was a weight loss pill that people were taking, and they found that it was actually extremely hard on people's hearts. And so, these are just things to look out for. How likely is it that this is a good, healthy, safe approach? All right, so then they also suggested asking 5 questions of any site that you visit. So this is the who, what, when, where, and why of a website. So looking at who runs the website? Can you trust that they will offer unbiased information? So again, thinking about, are they trying to sell something to you? Or, who is creating this website? Is it a website for an alternative medicine magazine? Not that that's necessarily bad, but just, they may have an agenda. Is this a government website or an academic website that is, that has less of an agenda, just really trying to push what the accurate information is? So what does the site say? Does it seem sensational or just too good to be true? Related to this, one of the things that's always good to look out for are things or phrases like, what doctors don't want you to know, or things like that, because typically that means it's one of those too good to be true scenarios, because typically that would be something that your doctor would likely advise you to not do. So keep that in mind. The when. So when was the information posted or last updated? So again, this just gets into how recent is the information? Has anything changed since then? Is this a website that's well kept up with? Where? So where did this information come from? So this also gets back to that issue of, is the information pulled from scientific research, from journal articles? That in and of itself is another huge topic about how to properly evaluate scientific research, that we won't delve into too much here. But it is important to look at things like how many people were in the study, who's the study population, how many studies have been done. It's stronger evidence if it's been seen in if the results have been seen in multiple studies, in multiple locations with multiple types of subjects. If you see a study showing significant results in decreasing blood glucose levels when you follow a paleo diet in 5 African American males in Massachusetts, you might not want to make your choices based just on that study. That's one study that is a part of a larger field. And I like to look for review articles or meta-analyses, which look at several articles all together. And so then it makes it really simple, and the authors do a lot of the work of comparing all of those articles together and trying to figure out what the previous studies are saying as a whole. And so if you find a meta-analysis, a Cochrane review, a systematic review, those are really good resources if you're trying to evaluate how effective a certain diet or supplement or whatever is. All right, so then just talking a little bit about I guess, my own approach, and we all bring biases into the class and a certain point of view. And so in this class, we only present evidence-based information. So this is only information that is generally accepted. It has strong scientific basis, right? And a lot of people have asked me about specific diets or specific supplements and things like that. My answer will almost always be check with your doctor before you do anything, because if you're on medication, if you have any health conditions, if you're taking multiple supplements, particularly if they have single ingredients in them versus multivitamins, there's a wide range of things that can interact and make what you're doing potentially dangerous. So especially if you're going to do anything where like you're cutting out a huge portion of carbs or something like that, you may want to just double check with your doctor first to make sure that that would be okay. And then I generally recommend that people approach having diet or coming up with diets or weight loss as an issue of balance. So looking at a site like myplate.gov, or actually I really like the Harvard Food Pyramid. If you just Google that, you can find it really quickly. That's even more aligned with current scientific research on what people should be eating. There are some issues with my plate, but it's pretty close to the Harvard Food Pyramid. Harvard just calls for more fruits and vegetables. If you want to make a healthy change, adding more fruits and vegetables, substituting whole grains like brown rice for fine grains like white rice, choosing mostly non-animal sources of protein like beans, nuts, seeds, or lower fat types and cuts of meat are all really good ways to create a very balanced, very healthy diet so that you can make sure you're getting all the nutrients you need, all the macro and micronutrients that you need, without making yourself feel like you're giving too much up. It seems to be pretty effective. I try to use this with my clients, but with adding things in instead of taking things out, you don't want to make people feel like they're missing out. You don't want to make people crave foods, long for foods. So it's good to do that, to just focus on what you can eat and to adding more things in. And the less healthy things tend to kind of fall by the wayside when you do that. So if you just make those little changes, which can be big changes for some people, I know, and if you pair this with meeting physical activity recommendations and working to manage stress, you're probably in pretty good shape. Based on current research, that slow and steady, not using a lot of pills or extreme diets or anything like that, and just eating these mostly unprocessed or minimally processed foods is most effective, and it really helps with sustaining that weight loss. So if you lose that pound a week consistently over the course of several months, it may be hard to keep up your motivation like that, and you may have to come up with little tricks to keep yourself going. But in the end, you're much more likely to keep that weight off if you follow this process. And it's good to just be realistic too, and to think not only of, how can I get from here to 12 pounds of weight loss, but also thinking about your quality of life and what is really important and what are you willing to do in the long run and what are you not willing to give up. And I think I've mentioned it on the discussion board and possibly in other videos, but for me, when there are free muffins in the break room at work, it just makes me really happy, and I always eat them. And I like to have, maybe a couple of beers on the weekend or something like that. And that to me makes my life better. It makes me happy. It's a social thing. And it's it's these little treats. Those aren't things that I'm willing to give up, but other people may have other things that they're not willing to give up. But it's good to kind of keep that in mind and to work that into your whole process so that what you're getting at is something that really works for you. So just to, well, before I do that, so all of that said, I wouldn't encourage anyone to follow like a paleo diet or like a keto diet or anything like that. But if that's what you choose to do, I would just encourage you to seek out the most reputable sources that you can find for how to do this properly. Because for pretty much any diet that you have, you can set it up so that it's healthy. It's just some take a little bit more work than others to do. So I would just seek out those reputable resources, consult a dietitian if you want. That's generally a good way to get really good information. I would evaluate the diet's recommendations compared to USDA or whatever you have in your country, or WHO, World Health Organization, dietary recommendations. The USDA macronutrient recommendations do provide a pretty wide range. So like for protein, it's 10 to 35% of calories. For fat, 20 to 35% of calories. And for carbohydrates, 45 to 65% of calories. So if you're looking at a diet and it's calling for cutting back on carbs, but not to less than 45%, you wouldn't have to think about that too much and the implications of that. It's still within this healthy range. Looking at, again, if it's outside of these ranges, then why? Why do they put it outside of the range? What's the justification behind that? Are there any long-term implications to doing that? Are there any nutrient deficiencies that you should be aware of and look for? Even something just like a vegetarian or a vegan diet, you have to consider that, even though those are typically pretty standard diets and are very healthy, again, if you do them correctly. I'd also evaluate your expectations, goals, and underlying wants. And so are you looking to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks for a wedding? And in that case, you may totally know, you completely understand that it's not particularly safe or good, but this is just something that you want to do. And so then you're going to follow this diet, that says that you'll lose 10 pounds in a week. Okay, that's one thing. If you're looking to improve your health, if that's your main objective, is the sustainable weight loss to improve your just overall health, is attempting to lose 10 pounds in a week actually a good approach? And these are personal issues, and in the end, it is a personal decision. But like anything else, it's best to make an informed decision. Also, on the class website, there's a link for additional resources. So in addition to that NIH evaluating resources link that I was talking about, there's tons of other links that are on that additional resources page. Again, I would strongly encourage you to look at myplate.gov. They have what's called a super tracker function, and that's where you can go in and put in everything that you eat, whatever, so you can analyze your diet. It also tells you how many calories you should eat if you're trying to maintain, gain, or lose weight. And then it breaks it down further into how much in each food category or food group. So, fruits and vegetables, grains, meats, whatever, that or other forms of protein that you should be eating to meet those calorie needs. It gives, you can track your exercise in there. And then on the main website, there's just tons of tips on how to make small healthy changes. And so myplate.gov is an awesome, huge resource. Again, I also feel like the Harvard Food Pyramid is another amazing resource. And then whatever else is on that link or that list of additional resources. So again, I really apologize that my camera is not working. Hopefully for the next one, we can get that figured out. But thank you all for listening. And if you have any other questions, just post them in the discussion board. If you change that little icon that's like a speech bubble over to the question mark, so from a discussion to a question, then I just see those questions a lot faster. So if you have any questions, just make sure to mark them as a question, put them in the discussion board, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So again, thank you all for listening, and have a good rest of your day.